found something I wanted to talk about today. It's not really connected with anything else we've been talking about recently, but I was just perusing random texts and I stumbled upon this thing that I thought was striking. So it's from one of Dogen Zenji's fascicles from his Shobo Genzo. Shobo Genzo is a collection of pieces that Dogen wrote throughout the latter part of his life, short life. He died like in his 50s, I think. And so, we're very familiar with the Fukan Zazengi and the Genjo Koan. These are fascicles or essays or pieces that we're really familiar with. But there's this other fascicle in the collection that Seisin talked about years ago, and I was just kind of somehow found myself stumbling upon it the other day. This one is called The Lancet of Zazen. So, and I've seen other translations as the acupuncture needle of Zazen. But that point really penetrating, the single pointed concentration, the lancet, piercing what? Piercing all of our ideas and concepts of what we think is and what we think should be. So I was reading through it, and then I stumbled upon these two paragraphs that focus, I guess one way to put it is it focuses on what the Dharma isn't as opposed to what it is, right? So often we talk about things and we teach things about what they are and how they should be, and this is an interesting example of him talking about what it isn't and what it shouldn't be. So yeah, let's just dive in. He says, recently, some stupid illiterates say, once you attain the state in which the breast is without concerns, the effort at seated meditation is peace and tranquility. So that's what he's quoting the stupid illiterates as saying. This view does not compare with that of the scholastics of the lesser vehicle. It is inferior even to the vehicle of men and gods. How could one who holds such a view be called a person who studies the Buddha Dharma? At present, there are many such practitioners in the land of the great Sangh. How sad that the way of the ancestors has become overgrown. So let's just go line by line here. He says, recently, some stupid illiterates. Very strong words. So he's quoting them, saying, once you attain the state in which the breast is without concerns, right? A lot of key words here. Once. As if there's some kind of point at which you get something. Once you attain, getting, gaining, adding something. Once you attain the state, right, like we go to some other kind of place, some kind of state to get in. The state in which the breast is without concerns, right? So our heart, mind, our spirit is just totally cool, no concerns, no grieving, no loneliness, no jealousy, no sadness, no guilt. Once you attain that, then the concentrated effort at seated meditation is peace and tranquility. Just sit on this cushion and just bask in the bliss of perfect thusness. Can anyone think of meditation teachers at present who talk like this? Let's try to get that peace. Let's try to get it. So yeah, his scathing review continues. This view does not compare with that of the scholastics of the lesser vehicle, right? So he's saying it's worse than even the scholastics of the lesser vehicle, right? So scholastics, obviously, academics, study, concepts, knowing things, right? These are all barriers. They can also be tools, but they can very often be barriers to direct experience of awakening to my true self. Um, so not only scholastics, but scholastics of the lesser vehicle, which in Buddhism, there's different sects and branches and um, lineages, and very often the Theravadan schools of Buddhism are called the Hinayana schools, and Hinayana translates to lesser vehicle. Very judgmental. I try to always say Theravadan and stay away from Hinayanan. But I think some of our Dharma ancestors and Dharma family members, they see it like, the Hinayanans I don't know too much, I don't want to say, but I think the theory behind the lesser bit is that they're really concerned with my awakening. That's the whole deal. You follow these rules, you do this practice, and you get to be enlightened, experience nirvana, and leave this cycle of birth and death. While with the Mahayana schools, like Zen, our focus is more the Bodhisattva vow, and vowing to hold on to a little bit of separation, hold on to our karmic conditions, just a little bit. Engage, I should say, engage in our karmic conditions and vow to liberate all others before fully leaning into liberation myself. And that's problematic language also, but that's where the lesser and more come. They're lesser because they just want to sit in a cave and get enlightened for themselves, and we're all about liberating everyone. So I'm just quoting my man here. I'm not saying lesser or more. He's being very clear though. So this view of attaining a state of perfect peace is even worse than like the academics of the lesser vehicle, and it's even inferior to this other vehicle of men and gods. I'm not quite sure what the vehicle of men and gods is. I think it refers to maybe theistic religions. The vehicles of gods, the Bahama or something is a Hindu deal. All the Hindu gods have like vehicles that drive their spirits. So it might be rooted in that. And obviously for us and for Dogen, separating between, humans and gods is, pretty diluted view or specific view. How could one who holds such a view be called a person who studies the Buddha Dharma? At present, there are many such practitioners in the land of the great Sung. How sad that the way of the ancestors has become overgrown. So, yeah, this just really resonates with me because, meditation, Buddhism, introspection, healing practices, these are like very popular. And maybe it's just because I live and work at a Zen center, and I also work at like a kava lounge that I happen to be surrounded by like a lot of the new age spirituality kind of culture. But I hear this a lot. I hear a lot of people coming to meditation to free their breast of concerns and just be peace and tranquility. And I tell people that I live at a Zen center, and they're like, man, that's why you're so peaceful. You must be so peaceful. And Dogen is, clearly saying that this is such a skewed view. The way of the Buddha Dharma includes everything. getting out of samsara, getting rid of my delusion, ending suffering. This has nothing to do with being peaceful and happy all the time, and has everything to do with fully, committedly, intimately coming face to face with concerns and suffering, right? Anyone who says, oh, I've meditated so much that I am just like peace all the time. The first thing I think of, well, then, like, what about my man in Yemen who cannot get food? What about my man in the Ukraine? What about, so and so who just experienced extreme trauma? You just don't care, not your problem. Every ounce of suffering is my suffering. Every ounce of awakening is my awakening. We are sharing this moment. And so every concern is my concern. There's a koan that we talk about a lot. A monk asks a teacher, I forget which one, I heard there's a place beyond hot and cold, or something like that. How do I get there? Something like that. And the teacher says, when it's hot, let it kill you with hot. When it's cold, let it kill you with cold. Right? And this kill is a strong word, but it really points to this losing the self. And there are a number of koans that really point to this, like, just die. Just die. That's what we're doing here. Allow yourself to die. And then see how loud life is once we can do that. So if it's peace that's happening, kill yourself with peace. Let the peace kill you. Completely lose yourself in that peace. And when it's concern, depression, grieving, let the grief kill you. Don't try to reach a state where you're free of grief. That sounds awful. It sounds like suppression. It sounds like controlling and manipulating. I want this, I don't want that, right? The way is simple. It simply dislikes picking and choosing. And so that's why Dogen has such a hard time with this. And I guess, yeah, it's hard. I don't know exactly how to talk about this, but to me, the greatest offering of this particular little bit of this fascicle, the Lancet of Zazen, is that I don't know if anyone else feels me, and I'm totally just projecting here, but Dogen sounds depressed, right? Our great master, who we exalt as the greatest spiritual genius, and everybody's reading his, thousands of years later, he's this major Zen master. No one could write like him. He sounds really depressed here. At least I recognize that. Some stupid illiterates. I don't talk about people like that unless I'm really angry. It's a far cry from his other fascicles where he's like, all beings cover the ground perfectly wherever they are. And here he's just very unabashedly saying these stupid illiterates. And I find myself doing the same thing, when I hear about all the weirdo cults and meditation, new age strategy things that are trying to get you to just be in peace. And, sometimes I get pretty indignant. Like, these guys are ruining the Dharma and they're appealing to everyone with their tea and cookies and fancy beards and weird garb to make themselves look spiritual, and people are just eating it up, pisses me off. I've been there. I know that feeling. Especially when you think that they're leading folks astray. But you know, what an unfortunate approach to spirituality, right? To say theirs is wrong and this is the real one, right? Obviously, we don't want to be doing that. Sweetwater Zen Center, we always talk about interfaith activities, inclusiveness, right? Anyone's welcome to come here, and if they want to do, Christian prayer, if they want to do mindfulness practice, if they want to do these other things that we don't necessarily teach, it's fine, it's great. We want to support everyone. And so the fact that our great Master Dogen is here showing a bit of vulnerability, I think is really special and is a great teaching that never reached this state. Even the great Dogen, even the great Bernie, even the great Ale. By nature of living, we come up against concern. We come up against anger and indignance and depression and wanting things this way and that. It's just what it means to wake up in the morning and go to bed at night. And so our practice is not about not feeling those things. It's about being so intimate that you can actually fall in love with all of your concerns, all of your peace, and all of your tranquility. But yeah, I just really appreciate this holistic look into Dogen. He's so human here. Some stupid illiterates. I can't get over that. Who talks like that? Oh my God. Anyway, he kind of goes on in this second paragraph. Then there's another type of person. Like this guy is like legit like, and another thing. These people over here, it's just so human. Yeah, and I can just see him. When you send the email when you're reactive and you look back at it and you're like, oh God, I can't believe I wrote that. Or maybe you respond to something in a difficult conversation and you look back and you're like, oh God, I need to apologize for that. I feel Dogen doing that now. Oh, I shouldn't have called them illiterates. That was pretty mean. So anyway, yeah, then there's another type of person who says, to pursue the way in seated meditation is a function essential for the beginner's mind and the latter-day student. But it is not necessarily an observance of the Buddhas and ancestors. Walking is Zen, sitting is Zen, whether in speech or silence, motion or rest, the substance is at ease. Do not adhere solely to the present concentrated effort of seated meditation. Okay, so that was the quote that Dogen is quoting. These other people over here, they're saying, pursuing seated meditation, Zazen, is a function essential for the beginner's mind and the latter-day student. So what are they saying? They're saying, in a way, we sit to do this. We sit to get this, right? Because beginner's mind, what's wrong with beginner's mind, right? We love beginner's mind. It's a huge buzzword in Buddhism, not knowing, being born and dying every moment. It's great, right? What could be wrong with that? Why is Dogen putting these folks down, right? Doesn't Zazen do that? Doesn't Zazen allow us to strip away all of our preconceived notions and develop this beginner's mind? And then he's quoting these other people. They say, but that is not necessarily a full observance of the Buddhas and ancestors, right? They're saying just sitting is not it. Walking is Zen, sitting is Zen, whether in speech or silence, motion or rest, right? Well, that's a nice point, right? We talk about that. That, yeah, Zazen is important, but like Zen, enlightenment, practice is always. It's not just in the Zendo. What's wrong with that? We always say that. And they say, do not adhere solely to this effort of meditation. That sounds nice, right? We sit to cultivate this beginner's mind, but we also realize that practice is everything. But Dogen is not happy. He says, many of the type calling themselves a part of the lineage are of this view, but it is because they are deficient in transmitting the right life of the Buddha Dharma that they speak thus. What is the beginner's mind? Where is there no beginner's mind? And where do we leave the beginner's mind? So he's getting very subtle here, very picky, right? So he's calling them out for staining the lineage, which is a huge, huge cut, right? That's basically what we're doing here, is upholding the lineage of the Buddha's mind, right? The Buddha says, Kashyapa, you share my mind, go teach it. And then Kashyapa says, Ananda, you share my mind, go teach it. We're literally passing on this Buddha mind and, ostensibly taking that very seriously. That's why you got folks dedicating to a teacher for 15, 20, 25, 30 years to get this transmission. Some of my indignance that I share with Dogen is looking at all these meditations where you go like sit for 5 weeks and then you're a teacher. They're everywhere, go do a couple retreats and you're certified to tell people about meditation. It's very strange to me. So yeah, he's calling them out for staining, diluting the lineage of the Buddha. And he explains, what is this beginner's mind, right? And this is really important, right? Because yeah, we talk about things like we sit to cultivate the beginner's mind. We sit to get in touch with our true self. But the minute you even say, begin, as soon as you say, it's gone. Beginner's mind is completely without concept and idea, completely without notion of some kind of thing. So when they say to pursue the way in seated meditation is a function essential for the beginner's mind, it's implying this, same as the first quote, to attain some kind of state, to develop some kind of thing. But the minute we approach it as some kind of a thing to develop, to get, to make better, to go deeper with, as soon as we acknowledge it as a thing that's happening, it's not beginner's mind. It's advanced mind, immediately. True beginner's mind is what Dogen is saying. What is beginner's mind? Can we do that all the time? I was talking with someone today about approaching difficult situations from this place of not knowing. And man, it's so hard, but so powerful to really, think about something that you are a beginner at, right? Think about the first time you tried to throw a baseball, or first time you stepped in a classroom to teach. What is that mind? You're not going into that being like, I'm going to now pretend that I have never thrown a baseball before. I'm going to cultivate no, you just literally like, that's beginner's mind. And so for Dogen to talk about it, to talk about this thing that we cultivate, and we do this sitting for the purpose of doing this, but then it's also this, and making that separation, the hair's breadth deviation is the difference between heaven and earth. That's another Dogen quote. The minute you have the slightest idea of what you think you're doing in here, it's gone. At the end of the Identity of Relative and Absolute chant that we do, When you walk the way, it is not near, it is not far. It's not a thing to be here or there or developed or not, just totally fresh in every moment. What is this beginner's mind? Where is there no beginner's mind, right? That's also really important. Beginner's mind isn't a thing to attain or cultivate. Beginner's mind is what we are in every moment. We are selfless, we are without conditions, essentially, absolutely, intrinsically, that's what we are. And so Zazen, practice, Sangha, all these things we do aren't made to develop or cultivate beginner's mind. It's simply revealing the beginner's mind that's already there. Do less. Say less. It's what we are. It's totally fresh every moment. But it's very hard to see because in order to make cereal and go do our jobs and take care of our kids and all of that stuff, we have to come up with concepts and operate within societies and institutions. And, you know, all of that is unfortunately obscuring our intrinsic beginner's mind. So yeah, what is this beginner's mind? Where is there no beginner's mind? Where do we leave the beginner's mind? Right? So these questions, these prompts of not knowing penetrate so much more deeply than saying, I sit so that I can get beginner's mind. Yeah, I really appreciate Dogen's vulnerability here. It makes me feel, on the one hand, a little bit, you know, kind of vindicated when I feel indignant or feeling like such and such practice is less or harmful to the Dharma. You know, I do have those thoughts. And it also makes me want to look at that. You know, this is an aspect of Dogen that I don't necessarily want to feed. Some stupid illiterates say, how can they call themselves a branch of the lineage? I don't want to talk like that. I want to say, it's like this difference, you know, I'm really happy with, you know, social justice work because they're really shifting. I don't know if folks have been in those circles, but there's really shifting from calling out to calling in. I don't know if people have heard that, but it's a major shift, and I think it's really important. So if this is calling people out, you stupid illiterates, you've never even heard of Ibram X. Kendi, you deficient in transmitting the Dharma, you don't even know what a koan is. That's calling out. What would calling in be? Tell me more about this attainment of yours. I don't have that experience. I'd love to hear yours. I don't know. That might be a better way to kind of get on the same page. And that goes for our life, right? I've certainly had many coworkers, many friends where I feel like this stupid illiterate thinks of blah, blah, blah. So do I call them out or do I call them in? It's a very difficult and powerful practice. But yeah, thank you, Dogen, for showing us your concerns and for being real. And hopefully, the more intimately and deeply I can be real with myself and use Zazen not as a tool of peace, but as a tool of facing what is, I really do think that we can soften into calling in. So I'm working on it, and thank you everybody for working on it together. Thank you all, and yeah, I'll open up for questions or comments, nuggets of wisdom.